And that's why last week I called on our president to decide he would not attend the opening ceremonies of the Olympics, because that is a public and very obvious ratification of our government's approval of the Beijing government's actions. Really. Unless the Chinese began to take very visible steps to begin to end the suppression of the Tibetans and undermining their culture and religious beliefs, I mean, dragging them out of the Dark Ages, and if we could get more cooperation out of the Chinese government with respect to Sudan, right? We know what that means, right? And of course, I would welcome even more action on behalf of human rights. But the challenge is, how do we try to influence the Chinese government? And I believe we have missed many opportunities during the Bush administration to do so. In fact, I think it's fair to say our policy towards China is incoherent, and that has not been in the best interest of our values or our strategic interest. So I would urge the President at least to consider, and therefore publicly say, that he will not be attending the opening ceremonies. And let's see whether the Chinese government begins to respond, because that for them would be a great loss of face, and perhaps we would get more cooperation. This was back in 2008. It seems a little bit flummoxed. I read that the way that I read it, as a reflection of the rambling nature of the analysis. I think that somewhere on the path to losing the nomination in 2008, she forgot how to write a sentence. But this is neither here nor there. What I'm trying to get across with this is the extremely tough mindset that she has been projecting from herself for years. Again, I said this before, Hillary assigns a lot of value to having people think she's tough. She wants you to think she's an iron lady that will smite America's enemies. That's what she wants you to think. And it's a reaction to, the reality of sexist perceptions that she's a woman, so she's soft, right? And she will overcompensate for this, okay? And we saw that as Secretary of State. Okay, you saw it in all of the comments leading up to it. You saw it in some of her Senate resolutions. And at this point, there is really no reason not to believe her. In fact, there's reason to be concerned that she's maybe a little too tough, maybe a little too hawkish, a little too hard-nosed. And regarding China, that's where one of the bigger concerns arises. It's well understood that she was one of the architects behind the Asia Pivot strategy, which, to give the Obama administration a little bit of credit, they did move away from, because it was too aggressive. And the way to deal with China right now is not to be aggressive. The way to deal with China is to be concessionary. And she's not going to do that. She's going to be tough. She's going to, boycott things, try to isolate them, do everything she possibly can to give them a hard time. Now, you can make the argument that, well, she spent these years as Secretary of State. Surely she learned a few things? No. It was the exact opposite. She tried to push down really, really conservative, hard-nosed policies, and the administration pushed back against it. And I don't know exactly why she stepped down, if it was, she decided that was enough for the run, she had her experience, or if maybe she had been a little bit frustrated, right, by the administration that didn't want to take such a hardline approach. I know that, not going to the Olympics may seem a little bit trivial, but it's the point, right? The point that this is, she doesn't have a collaborative approach. She has a carrot and stick approach, a hierarchical approach, an imperial approach. She's the empire. She's the empress. She's the boss. And all these other countries in the world just do what they're told. And that's the exact wrong way to deal with China right now. And as far as I can see, there's absolutely no evidence at all that she's adjusted to that. All of the evidence suggests that she's just going to double down and push even harder. And in that area of the world, I mean, it's the same thing that Trump is saying, right? And what you're going to get in that area of the world is you're going to get a hot conflict. Look at, for example, the rearmament of Japan. That's something that's happened. Japan has an army again. Do you think that, we pushed and pushed for Japan to build an army if they weren't going to use it? It is a legitimate concern. And people should really, if they're concerned, I mean, if they vote on foreign policy, they should really be concerned. I've stated before that I think she's going to really blow up a whole bunch of countries in Africa, and that's something to be really concerned about. The Russians hate her, etc. But the biggest potential for serious war under a Clinton presidency is in East Asia, because she doesn't have the subtlety of approach. She doesn't do things carefully and analytically. She's very maybe we should close this with the following statement. Hillary Clinton in East Asian foreign policy would be very much like a bull in a china shop.